I'm missing you on Zoom this week, but we will resume the Zoom next week. I do not know if you had the time to look at our taped recording, but I want to go through it a little bit now so that you don't get like bogged down like how to get into it. I must tell you, if it does not come intuitively to you how to open up the recording, I'm not the one to tell you how to do it because I do it the way it makes sense to me. I have to do the exact same thing on the class that I'm taking over the weekend, and they don't have Blackboard. They have another platform, and it is very much the same. And I do the same little like hesitation. Then I get it. But all right, so you open up Zoom, and there where it says Cloud Recordings, I'm going to do it right now. I'm pressing it, and then oh, there's our class. Oh yeah, that's the day. So then where it says the first one, COM 101, press on that. And then you'll see a series of boxes. These are like the video clips, right? And then I always go to the one that says recording. And in this case, it's in the second column. And then I click on the middle where you have that little arrow. And then what you're going to see down below, you're going to see where it says passcode. And you have to copy that passcode. So what I do is where the little I is, anytime you see ... or little I, press on that because that means there's information there. In this case, it's the little I. So you press on the I and that's going to show you the passcode. And then I just copy the passcode, right? And I'm glad that this is here. It's not as easy to get in because this is how we are protecting our videos from the rest of the world. Okay, and then you copy just like you'd copy anything else. And then I go back to the little arrow in the middle of the square or the rectangle and press it. And then it comes and it says, oh, enter the passcode. Then I press and I paste the passcode. And then I access the recording. So I don't have the passcode. Some students were asking me, do you have the passcode, Ms. Fernandez? I said, no, it's embedded. And this is exactly how I have to do it. And then you have the entire broadcast and it says it's over 2 hours and 44 minutes long. Oh, I'm not sure if that says 44, some number. I don't have my glasses on. I told you I broke them, right? I don't know if I told you, but I did. Anyway, and then you press it, and then you can scroll ahead. When you see me just sitting there counting down, or I'm on blah blah blah, just get going until you get to the students, and it's exciting. Now, this was kind of like a little bit of a party atmosphere, and I definitely was enjoying your company. Yeah, see, there I am. I'm talking away. I'm definitely enjoying it, and I love seeing your faces and hearing your voices, and it's exciting to have this souvenir or this keepsake. So that was our introductions. But our next Zoom, we're all business, because now you're getting into your first formal presentation, which is still your what's the word I'm trying to do? Just breaking in. You're just your first time. So icebreaker, that's what I mean to say, in the news, where you will follow the prompts that are on that handout. Like you'll notice that every one of our presentations has a handout. And it's always introduction, body, conclusion. And it's up to you, the topic you pick. It's up to you what you're going to talk about. So once you decide on something that you might normally talk about with others, family and friends, you're going to share it with the class. And it's only one topic at a time, and that can be hard for some students who have a lot to say. So come next week at 11 o'clock on our day, you go into Zoom, and I will be there too. And I'll try to get there early so I can take attendance as people are coming in, so I don't have to take a lot of minutes on the attendance. And then I'll smile, you'll smile, and I'll say, who'd like to be first? And I'll go back to my notes from last week to see who had to go toward the end of our time together and ask, would you like to go first, or would you like to go? But in the end, it usually works out. Somebody has to go first, somebody has to go last, and we try to manage our time together and share it. But it is all business. It's not going to be me chatting. Thank the Lord, right? Who needs to hear that? And but it's nice. It's a nice cohesive group of educated young people sharing ideas, encoding your messages. And when you sit back after next week is over and look at that video, you're going to be very impressed. So everyone's going to contribute. So what you should be doing this week is start thinking like, what in the news, what would be of interest to me? Is it going to be on a news broadcast? Is it going to be something that I find on the internet or on some social media site that's legitimate, that's legal and in good taste, that's you're speaking about the truth, right? So you decide. It could be from sports to politics to human interests to health issues, computer, gaming, little stories that you might find that are significant to you in your hometown about certain things that are happening that you would talk about with someone. Like even if it wasn't us in class, someone else, talk neighbor to neighbor. Say, I'm going to bring that in. It could be such a small little tiny story, and it'll be a good platform for you to practice on, because this is what it's all about. You're practicing, right? And as you present on the Zoom, your peers can use the chat. They can ask you questions, they can comment, and I love that the chat feature was used last week. I love that. I never can do that. I can't listen and chat at the same time, but you can. And so hopefully you take that point, that opportunity to share with your colleagues and say something positive. I had a lot of fun last week on the Zoom, but I was enjoying meeting you and saying, look at this, look at these students, so lucky to be together. Now it's a little bit more serious, but serious in the best of ways, because now you're in charge. And the topics do not have to be serious. They could be silly. They could be whatever significance you want to make of them. And there's only one. So then once we decide who's going first, and that shouldn't take more than a second, then say, okay, platform's yours. Breathe in, breathe out, get your seat settled, and you're on. And then when it's over, you can you're going to be looking at the camera anyway on the Zoom, and you say thank you for listening, or thank you, any questions. Now the reality is we don't have time for questions. Even in the classroom, we don't have a lot of time for questions and answers. We just don't. And not all the time when I'm doing presentations is there a question and answer period. Actually, lately, there really isn't. That's when that's when the chat comes in. And you might notice when you're done, you might answer some of the students who asked you questions on the chat. And then we move on, So then I say, great, next. And make yourself proud. It could come out better than what you anticipated, what you practiced. It could come out, oh my goodness, that's not how I practiced it at all. But that's what real life is. So many times when I leave a speaking situation, I wish I could have a do-over, but that's what live public speaking is. So the more prepared you are with a topic that you care about, the more you're going to land on your feet. Even if you trip up on some of the words, what you've prepared will get you through. So be your own best friend. Make sure you have notes. I would suggest either using index cards or just a regular piece of paper and writing down an outline. I always encourage speaking from notes and that are, what they call extemporaneous speaking from a prepared outline, having it planned in your head. So this week, once you figure out what topic, and what I did when I was in your shoes, I would have a notebook and I would look at all my speeches to come. Like I have to do it in the news, I have to do an informative, I have to do a persuasive, etc., right? And even now in February, say, okay, this is coming. So your homework, yes, are the discussion boards. We had 2 and 2, and then they're going to go into 1 a week, and then we'll be doing the journals. So that, and you'll be reading. But where's your real work going? It's going into these presentations. And some of us obsess a little bit more than others. But building blocks. So you might have 2 or 3 topics selected for in the news. And then say, okay, look what I have to do in the beginning. State my name and say where I received my information. You can add a little bit more if you want to, but that's the first impression. Let the audience know what they're about to hear. And then you're going to paraphrase in your own words the content that you have absorbed, because you're retelling. So your encoding choices are up to you, right? And then you have your conclusion is your opinion. And then you're done. Simpler the better. 2 to 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. Please don't do that to yourself. And that's not the assignment. The assignment is to have an economy of words and to have a certain amount of time to get out a message. I was recently on a panel discussion. I'm part of a number of women's groups throughout the United States, and we're not traveling, so we do a lot of Zoom meetings. And each person was to take a topic. I was assigned my topic, and I was told I had 5 minutes to deliver my message, right? To encode my message. And there was 5 of us on the panel, right? So one after another. So within a half an hour, all the messages were delivered. And then it was opened up for the audience to ask us questions. That's how they did it. But my topic was huge to me, and I had to really work at edit, because I wrote out an outline. It probably would have taken me half an hour, what I wanted to say. And then I had to say to myself, what am I truly trying to say here? And what's the point of this presentation? And then edit it down. This semester I'm not teaching English, but when I do, and I ask for a 2-page paper, if a student hands me in a 5-page paper, and they say, I was up all night working on this paper, I said, the assignment wasn't to do a 5-page, it was to get a thought out in 2 pages. So you have to be very selective with the words you use and the examples, and you have to edit out. I always start my projects big, and then I chip away. Anytime I'm doing a presentation, it's always so much more than I'm actually going to deliver, because there's a time limit, and there's a time limit for a reason. That's for the audience to absorb. It's very difficult to stay with a presentation that goes on unless you're in a setting that someone is taking notes and you're teaching them about something. So we have to stay to the time limit. So that'll be next week. So be prepared with your notes, be organized, and I think you're going to find it easier than last week, which was more impromptu, and you didn't know how your voice was going to come out or who else was there. Now you have a sense of it, and you'll enjoy it and make yourself proud. And we'll go one after another. And then our Zoom recording will just be a wonderful blend of all the students in our class together, something to be proud of, and something that will be a pleasure to play back. And you'll notice that some of these in the news topics might be revisited. Oftentimes when a class comes up with their topics, 22 different topics, others listen and say, wow, that's a good idea. Maybe I'll expand upon that for my information speech. We do help each other a lot like this. And if you did not do your introduction last week, well, this week, when it's your turn to do the in the news, you can do a very quick, hi, I'm Joyce, I'm a communication major, and these are 3 facts about myself that you can't know by seeing me. And, you can share whatever you'd like to do quickly. And then we move on into your presentation. But they're all due. So look at the calendar, look at the syllabus. And I don't care what class you're in, always look to see where your grades are coming from. And then look at the calendar, when are things due. And so if you write to me and say, I'm confused, I'm not sure, okay, go back to the syllabus, go back to the calendar. We follow that plan. And next week will be on Zoom. So in the news is yours. You can start getting ready for your informative. You can start getting ready for your persuasive and the others that follow. You can do it because you have the handouts and you just write it down. Don't obsess, but be prepared. The last thing I want someone to say, oh, I didn't know that was due, or I didn't know I was supposed to do that too. Just because I'm not formally assigning it to you right now doesn't mean you're not assigned it. As soon as you start a class, you look at the syllabus, that's all your work, and those are all the due dates, and you have it in you. Don't let this class take too much of your time and energy and worry. Realize it will unfold just as it's planned. That's like the same reason why I give you chapters to read, so you don't feel like you have to read 13 chapters in a week. No, 1 or 2 a week, 1 or 2 a week, 1 or 2 a week, looking at the vocabulary. Yeah, and at some point you will read about expository as a method of speech delivery. The other 3 are impromptu, memorized, and manuscript. Another term you're going to read about is writing for the ear, and how different that is than writing for a reader. Again, I teach English. When someone writes an essay, I'm looking at it much differently than when I'm listening to a presentation. In writing, I'm looking at, of course, spelling, grammar, as far as and punctuation, sentence structure, paragraphs, and all those cues give the reader something to understand more the content, right? The message itself. But when you're listening listeners are decoding your message with their own worldview, you have to guide them through it. So always when you're preparing, read your presentation out loud if you have parts, or present it out loud so you can hear it. Another tip some people do, sometimes it makes them crazy, is they video themselves, or they voice memo themselves so they can hear it. They tape record it so they can hear it back. And if it sounds clunky, or it sounds too wordy, or there's words you're trying to pronounce that don't roll off the tongue, or it doesn't sound right, it's not writing for the ear. You need to know this is going to be delivered to someone listening to it, not reading it. And there's a different skill set. And we've just begun. So, you're practicing right now. But when we listen to each other next week, I think it's gonna play out, where you're gonna hear some people's presentations and say, wow, that was easy to listen to, and I like the way that was pulled together, and I understood it. They're writing for the ear. So it's one of those skill sets. If you think it's hard for me to explain to you how to get a recording on Zoom, it is something that evolves naturally from practice. All my teachers when I was in school would say, I can't teach that to you. That's something you have to feel and pay attention to in others. To say, yeah, I want my presentation to be easy to listen to and to make sense. So watch the words you use, watch the vocabulary you're using. If you're using a lot of cliches and words that don't seem natural to you, you won't connect to your audience. You'll lose your credibility. So all that comes naturally when you are being yourself, and naturally when you find something you really do like to talk about. So that's your first step. Find a topic, start outlining it out, practice it out loud. You don't have to tape record it or, voice memo it, but if you want to, go ahead. But the day comes next week, it's live, and you accept what happens. It's going to be fine, you know that, right? I've had clunker presentations that I was like, could have done so much better. But in the end, I got the message out. And in the end, the audience knew my emotions. And in the end, they knew that this was, at that moment, my best shot. And that's all anyone can ask of you. We are all perfectly imperfect. We are not robots. And many times the speeches where a student or anybody trips over something or forgets something and goes back, I always like them better because I'm relaxed. I'm saying, okay, a real person is talking to me right now. But I do not interrupt. I do not interrupt. I do not save you either. You're on your own. But you'll have your notes and your preparation, and you'll get through it. So always know, after every presentation, there's another one coming. There's another one coming. Our last presentation is the personal experience and the brief opinion at the very end. Another 2 to 5 minutes. So this is our beginning, our icebreaker. I'm thinking of you all. I hope you're doing well. And enjoy the Zoom from last week, even though it's Joyce Fernandez over talking. But the good news is I don't do that again. All right, everyone, have a good week. I hope things are well in your life, and that your self-care and helping others as well. See you next week on Zoom.